course. The child goes to the teacher who will guide that child.
What do you mean by external moral authority? You use that expression a lot.
Materialism has to do with when you are...
Hello, it's great to have all of you back here with us in the studio for another episode of the course in Values and Spirituality. Today we will be looking at two aspects. The first is every negative quality is an inverted positive quality. We are all fundamentally good. And the second is all people are brothers and sisters. Sister Denise, I'd really like to welcome you back to the studio.
Thank you very much.
So, you start off on a very strong note, and this felt like bitter medicine because it's something that we are all guilty of. It is easy, you say, to see the faults and character defects in others.
Well, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. And you don't stop there. You go on to say, we often compare ourselves favorably with others and minimize our own faults. This makes us critical and negative and creates many problems in communication and personal relationships. This is something that we are all guilty of. As you said in another episode, that it's easier to see somebody else's mistakes rather than our own. Could you tell us what it is about our human psyche that causes us to function in this manner?
I think the principal reason psychologically is that our consciousness is oriented towards the outside. From a spiritual angle, the soul is on the inside. Your sense organs are between you and what you perceive. But when your consciousness is pretty much on the surface of your body, you don't see yourself. You just see what's out there. And you feel, you believe, you assume that you're fine because that feels good. And whatever you see that is inconvenient, uncomfortable, unpleasant or whatever, you will say, that's bad, it's them. And you just won't look at it in terms of, it takes two to tango. There's both sides in anything. And this is really why we do this. And also this is why we practice to really withdraw and pull the self to the inside so that you can actually see yourself. And another practice we do is to go outside and look back on the self so that you can really see yourself much as a camera would see you. And I think the use of cameras, the increasing use of cameras and CCTV and all of this that is there because of our concerns with security has meant that we're actually a lot more used to seeing ourselves on camera. And we find that the camera doesn't lie. And that has actually changed people's view of themselves.
You go on to say, consider every negative quality to be an inverted positive quality. I need for you to take us through the mechanics of what you mean, because this sounds good on paper, but what does it mean practically? And once you know this practically, how do you work with it?
The fundamental qualities of a soul have been described as purity, peace, power, love, bliss, happiness. This is what we spiritual beings are made of. These are very positive qualities. When a person is spiritually depleted, these positive qualities are expressed in a negative way, so that instead of love, it becomes hate or aggression. Instead of peace, it becomes disturbance and distress. Instead of bliss, it becomes depression. Instead of power, it's weakness. Instead of purity, you're really motivated by very impure aspirations and desires. So the inversion of the positive quality occurs as your spiritual power gets depleted. So that means that the negative and the positive are two sides of the same coin. And when we're working with re-empowering the self spiritually, you don't have to sort of destroy something negative and create something positive. All you have to do is fill yourself with spiritual power, and the negative format of your quality gradually changes into its own positive aspect, and then you operate from there in a spiritually and personally empowered way.
You say that your positive qualities has a negative opposite. Do you actually go about using the spiritual power that you just described to focus on the transformation?
I don't think you need to do that. This is why I look at it rather like a container. When that container is filled, it's full of light. As that container diminishes, the darkness starts to take over where light was. The light becomes less. So all you have to do is increase the light, and the darkness just goes away by itself. You don't have to make the darkness go away. You know, there's a lot of people who try to become peaceful instead of peaceless, and they have a very hard time doing it that way. So I think it's because of assuming that the bad thing is something that has to be destroyed and made to go away, and the good thing is something that isn't there and has to be created. But it's really a matter of the presence and absence of power. Another analogy is a battery. Everybody has their cell phone, their electronic devices, which are battery powered, and these are rechargeable batteries. And when your battery is full, you can use any app. All the app needs is power. You don't have some power for this app and a different type of power for another app. You just need power. In the same way, the soul needs power. But what people don't realize is that this power has a particular source where you can go get it and charge up, which is meditation, and that as you get depleted, none of your apps work, none of your qualities work, and the absence of qualities due to depletion, that causes the negative to come up and take over.
On page 33, you speak about how to interact with others using this new vision. Simply refocus your eyes to see the positive qualities of others and relate to them on that basis. Deciding to have a positive vision of others causes their positive qualities to emerge and negative aspects to fade from view. People are strongly influenced by the way we see them and respond accordingly. That last line caught my attention because it's not something that many of us are actually aware of, either consciously or unconsciously aware of.
No, it's very unknown. But the way you look at somebody, they become that.
That places the responsibility on your shoulders, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it also means that you're not neutrally looking at somebody. You're actually, if you look at somebody with love and friendship and you feel positive about them, they light up. And if you look at somebody with hatred and you don't like them, it affects them and they close down. The other thing I wanted to mention in connection with this paragraph is about the third eye. We've been talking about it a little bit, and when you are looking through your two eyes, you can see the negative very easily. You see what's physically in front of you. If you start to look through your third eye, you can see what's not visible to your two eyes. And what is not visible to the two eyes is these innate qualities which, because of spiritual depletion, have faded from view. But with your third eye, you can actually focus on them, and that even has the effect of raising the level of spiritual power temporarily, but it still does it in another person. And the hope is that when you raise their spiritual level of power, that they will be inspired to do the work to raise their own levels.
Wow, the consequences of something so simple, just like looking at somebody with spiritual eyes, is quite far-reaching.
And it's interesting that the word, if you're looking at wordplay, spiritual eyes and to spiritualize, you know, you're actually looking at somebody in such a way that from being really materialistic and depleted, they get inspired to become more spiritually based and actually do what is necessary to charge their depleted battery.
So it's an act of kindness, isn't it?
It's an act of kindness, it's a generosity.
Okay, so now we go on to number 6, which reads, all people are brothers and sisters. We think of ourselves in terms of color, skin, race, religion, caste, etc., and talk of us and them. This is very deep with all of us. Very, very deep. So you are saying that if we do the following, we can change our perception. Shifting our perception to seeing the inner being and our fundamental connection as spiritual brothers and sisters frees us from physical attraction and repulsion and the prejudices that perpetuate social injustice and anti-social behavior. What would be the motivation to make the shift? The reason I'm asking is because I said to you in a previous episode, many people consider their feelings to be who they are. So when we have attitudes and feelings and opinions about color, skin, race, religion, caste, most of us are quite comfortable with that status quo.
Of course, and I think it's quite important to realize that a child doesn't come out of the womb born racist and casteist and classist and all of that. This is learned during childhood in your upbringing, because whatever are the attitudes of your parents and the adults around, you just absorb those. But if you're left to your own devices, you wouldn't see those things. You don't see color until it's shown to you.
Yeah, I must admit, when you see little children playing with each other, they all play together irrespective of race. That is shown across the board.
And that's because the eye of an innocent child goes to the spirit naturally. And I think that this is where the adult world has failed the next generation, because it has really instilled this body consciousness into the children, and they then buy into that and perpetuate the social attitudes. And so bringing in an idea like all people are brothers and sisters is a very big confrontation to the idea that humans come in different races and brothers and sisters are only if you're in the same family. What is the reason that we can call ourselves brothers and sisters is if a person considers themselves to be and others to be a child of God. If you consider yourself to be a child of Mr. and Mrs. whoever, what they gave you is your body, but a couple cannot produce a soul.
Yeah, well, when you put it like that, it sounds quite obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah, but people don't really think of that. Some people feel that, this soul has come to us, and who is this person? But it's pretty rare. But actually the person themselves is a soul. So when you produce a child, you're creating a body which is a receptacle into which the soul incarnates. And of course, spirituality does take up the question of reincarnation, which means that that baby was previously an adult with another life and another whole identity, and died, and then came into this body. So someone came to you with a whole broad and deep and wide identity that is merged. As the child grows up, you begin to discern their individuality, their characteristics, but at the same time, that child also absorbs a great deal from the social environment and becomes a combination of what's on the inside and what has come in from the outside. If you say all people are spiritual beings, children of God, this is what makes you brothers and sisters. Otherwise, there's no connection.
You deliver some strong medicine, and in the middle of that paragraph you say you need to become aware of your preconceptions. This is something that most of us are not comfortable to do, because you're asking individuals to come face to face with their own prejudices and their own biases. And we all like, Sister Denise, to think of ourselves as neutral, even though we're not.
Well, it feels nice, doesn't it? But it's not a reality. And you can see again how there is this kind of opposition between feelings and facts. Is it better to experience disillusionment or to live under an illusion? My question for you.
Sure.
Which is better?
Yeah.
When you put yourself in front of a question like that, it clarifies things, because your natural preference is, well, I really don't want to be living under an illusion.
And then your life is a lie, isn't it, if you are?
Yes, and you don't understand what's going on. If you say, well, I don't want to experience disillusionment, so I'd rather live under illusions, you're really lying to yourself. So while the experience of disillusionment is extremely unpleasant, it's still preferable to living under an illusion. So that whenever somebody experiences the greatly unpleasant feeling of disillusionment, I put this question to them, and it quietens down their discomfort and distress. There's another question that is in a way connected with this that I also ask people in teaching situation. Is it better to be a powerful soul in a weak position, or a weak soul in a powerful position? Which is better? Invariably, the answer comes, I don't care about the position, I want to be a powerful soul. Who wants to be a weak soul? So then it means, okay, if you prefer to be a powerful soul, then you have to deal with your weak position. And dealing with your weak position requires your virtues, your powers, your intelligence, and so on. And this is why I think these questions are very helpful to move us away from our preconceptions and prejudices, because as soon as you look at them in a certain light, from a certain angle, you don't like them. And once you don't like something, you drop it. As long as it serves you, as long as it seems attractive, you'll hold on to it. And this is why it's quite helpful to get a student to look at it from another angle.
You end off this segment saying, instead of prejudging people, use your natural power to be a good judge of character and relate to others according to the spiritual attributes that unite, rather than seeing the physical attributes that divide us. Tell us how you make the paradigm shift of looking at somebody's spiritual attributes rather than their physical attributes. And the reason I'm saying this is because when you're talking to somebody, your eyes are already drawn to the obvious. And you're saying look beyond that and look behind that. Also, when you say to go beyond someone's physical attributes, you're also saying, as you said in the previous segment, one cannot look at their weaknesses or their defects.
Right.
So it's not just the physical attributes that you go beyond. It's anything that's negative about them.
You try and look at a person and see the real person. It's so subtle. I don't think you can do it unless you're really connected with yourself. So it's a kind of two-step process. You have to go deep inside yourself, and then from that internalized position, you're able to see the internal form of the other person. And then their physical attributes become secondary, because that is your, what we use the word drishti, how you look through your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You see, if you're looking at somebody and what you see is their skin color, it's very superficial. And your training is, this skin color means this. When you look and see a person deeply, from deep within yourself, the comparison between the preconception that you have learned and what's really in front of you becomes quite stark, because you'll say, well, you know, everybody is supposed to be like this, but I'm seeing this person is not like that. So then I have to decide, am I going to keep my prejudice, or am I going to listen to the breadth and depth of my perception, who the person is that feels the vibration of their mind, that watches what they do, that sees where they're coming from. You know, you have to say that not to see what's in front of you, something wrong with that.
I was wondering, as I'm listening to you speak, how the law of karma plays into every negative quality is an inverted positive quality. We are all fundamentally good, that, as well as all people are brothers and sisters. How does that law come into play?
The law of karma says that if you are operating on the basis of something that's real and true, and you are operating according to the implications of that, then your action will be a correct action. If you take something false to be true, then you will make an erroneous judgment, and that will mean that you will make an action which is a wrong action, and that will bring a result that is not what you anticipated.
Okay, so you have given the viewers a lot of food for thought. This is news to many, and I wish to thank you for the depth of what was shared today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really like the note on which Sister Denise ended today's talk. She said that if we continue to commit violations in terms of the law of karma, we may not have to pay immediately, but eventually it will come back to us. And the question that I'm left with is, if I'm continuing to act out of my negative qualities, if I'm continuing to see other human beings as anything except my brothers and sisters, and looking at them in terms of superficial vision, like color, skin, race, religion, caste, etc., am I not harming myself, let alone someone else? So this is a very powerful message, and something that is so spiritually empowering and so spiritually beautiful that one stands only to gain from putting this into practice, letting go of one's weaknesses and emerging that which is best in you. So thank you, Sister Denise.
Thank you.
A very, very powerful message, and I do hope that it is of some relevance to you in your life. I do hope to see you soon. Take care and goodbye.